Hello, here we are. Beattie, John, new layout here for Sir John's 200th birthday. Born January 11th, 1815. 200 years ago, the founder of Canada was born in Glasgow, Scotland. He wasn't born in China. He wasn't born in Iraq. He wasn't born in Sri Lanka. He wasn't born in Nigeria. He was born in a white nation, Scotland, Britain, the United Kingdom. He came over here and he forged a country with the help of the other fathers of Confederation. The real reason for the switch of layout, the old-fashioned furnace blows the heat, and where I usually am, up by the big front window, it's pretty damn cold in the winter. The house is cold enough as it is. So that's the reason, if you want the real reason. We've maneuvered the computer for the balance of January, February, and March by the blower, so it blows at my feet when I'm at work on the computer. Sir Jan.11th MacDonald, born 200 years ago, January 11th, 2015. January 11th, 2015. You can look him up on Wikipedia. He was a great leader. He forged the country from coast to coast, sea to sea. I'll tell you, riding a horse and cutter from Kingston, Ontario in freezing weather with one assistant driving the horse, his coachman, stopping at inns on the way. Freezing cold temperatures in an open sleigh. Just imagine, to get from Kingston, Ontario, his home where he practices law, down to Toronto to get the legislatures rolling and work on forming Canada, which officially, of course, was formed by him on July the 1st, 1867. When Canada Day is celebrating, hardly any tone is given to Sir John, as any tone in a lot of the rag media today is only mentioning a couple of negative things that they could mention about, for instance, the Indian question, or the Métis, or the hanging of Louis Riel. Louis Riel was guilty of rebellion. And yes, there was mistreatment of Indians, Native Indians, in the school system back then. They've been compensated since. And hey, without the white man, the Indian tribes are slaughtering each other. Near here in central Ontario cottage country, near Fenelon Falls, is a burial ground. Another slaughter between the Indian tribes. So come on, all throughout history, Scottish tribes fought, English tribes fought, the War of the Roses, Civil War. I mean, that's life, get over it. So Jan.11th MacDonald came over here and formulated a country of the Dominion of Canada. Now, just prior to his birth by 3 years, the native Indians, those who thought it's a good deal to work with the British Crown has kept their promises. Even with land decisions today in 2015, land promises are kept. And life on the reserves is cold and cruel in a lot of cases, but a lot of cases is mismanagement by their own chiefs. So yes, there were hardships for Indians, but just prior to his death in 1815, there were two great native heroes who worked with the British. I can't pronounce Tiounga, Chief Joseph Brant, and Brantford, Ontario, where the Confederacy of the Indian tribes was founded, etc. And prior to 1815, 1812, Tecumseh, another great Indian chief who linked up with the British Canadians well, don't tell anybody that they burnt down the White House in the States in 1812. So the firm links for British rule in Canada were firmly established when Sir John arrived as a little baby with his family of Scottish newcomers to the wilderness. And he had a touch of class, did he ever? Brilliant man, just nothing but good to say about Sir John. The founder of Canada, his birthday 200 years ago. If he could see Canada today, I think he'd do a lot of squirming. You know, I've had a lot of good praise for Harper, the Prime Minister of Canada today, the Conservative Party. But he's starting to slip. He's talking of admitting 10,000 Syrian refugees and Iraqi refugees. Yes, anybody feels sorry for human refugees. But think about it. The Western powers bomb the crap out of these countries, blow up everything around them, and then say, now that we've destroyed your country, come on over. We'll look after you. Well, that's not the way this boy sees it or the British People's League sees it. So John Alexander created a country. He got the railway going. Hours of debate with other fathers of Confederation, and they met in Charlottetown. The Charlottetown Conference was the beginning of the official paperwork. The blessings of Queen Victoria. And it's still on the statue of Sir John Alexander Macdonald at Queen's Park, the legislative buildings of Ontario in Toronto. And at the base of his statue out in the front lawn at Queen's Park, just prior to University Avenue, the inscriptions, quote of Sir John's, "A British subject I was born, a British subject I will die." Well, the feeling of Mother Britannia and the British spirit is in this boy, and 90% of my blood is of Scottish stock. Rubbed shoulders with the great one, and the other 10%, well, that might add up for more. She was a great granny, a Nan from Yorkshire, Geordie from Newcastle on Tyne, and the rest of the relatives from Aberdeenshire in Scotland. So he's something to be proud of, and not enough is promoted about Sir John Alexander Macdonald. And the naysayers and the creeps and the pulp media, they don't want to say anything good about him at all. He created a country. Without his tenacity and his brilliant foresight, we probably would have been an American state by now. Fortunately, we've still got a little bit stronger white representation in Canada, and our linkage with the British people is still there. Certainly don't want to talk about linkage with the Prime Minister of Britain or his cabinet, who are inviting the Third World to just drop in. I might as well say drop in by parachute. It's an invasion of the motherland, an invasion of France, with the recent slaughter of journalists, etc., just a couple of days ago in France. It's an invasion, a total invasion. And who allowed the invasion? The collaborators, that's who. Collaborators in the Second World War were not remembered well by history. And because the collaborators in the Second World War, the Dutch underground, the French underground, they were the heroes that rebelled against the invasion in the dead of night in a legal capacity as an underground is formed to free your nation. So the backlash in Sweden, it looks like it's being formed. There's 15 mosque fires over the last year. The last 2 fires were the last week of 2014. I'm not promoting anything illegal whatsoever. I am just merely pointing out, have I got both hands there? I think I do. I'm just merely pointing out that undergrounds, when there is an invasion, it's the last choice of the patriots of any nation. It's quite obvious. But having said that, I can't talk about anything illegal. I'm just giving an opinion as to what I've seen on the internet with Paris being invaded, with my motherland, Britain, invaded, whether it's Leeds, Bradford, Luton, Birmingham, Coventry, you name the cities, Wolverhampton, all of the invasions by the Third World into our nations. So a stand has to be taken. And well, ask yourself the question, I mean, what else can be done? The native patriots had no choice but to form legal undergrounds. So the legality, well, they didn't question the legality of the French underground during the Second World War. The Dutch underground, the French underground, they were magnificent. Even Czechoslovakian underground. I'm not saying form one. I'm just saying what's history. And of course, if such were formed, I'd be smiling, because then I know some patriots are, well, the question would be for a court of law. Are they taking the law in their own hands? Well, we've been invaded, but more so in Britain and France, total invasion. But it looks like in Sweden, I mean, 15 mosque fires is a little bit too much of a coincidence. So what are we at the halfway mark? I could have done up a big script for the show, but I just find them better without paperwork. Speaking of paperwork, there are people who do a great detailed job with paperwork, and that, of course, is our friends at Candor League in the United Kingdom. Candour, candor.org.uk. Candour, candor.org.uk. And their latest bulletin magazine will have been received by now, and they're already getting ready for the next magnificent magazine to send out to the subscribers throughout the Anglo sphere, shall I say. And then to the south of us, the only organization that this boy can promote in a relaxed fashion is the League of the South. League, leagueofthesouth.com, leagueofthesouth.com. And as I said in the December 30th video, Dr. Michael Hill, it's the head honcho of the League of the South, is just brilliant. He's got the Southern Revival figured out. None of it's going to be without fuss, of course not. The wake-up call is Paris, France. It's a wake-up call. You cannot have cultural clashes in nations. It just doesn't happen in nature, and it certainly doesn't happen with human beings. Japan has kept Japan for the Japanese. China has kept China for the Chinese. And again, I want to point out that the treatment of Hong Kong citizens, the Chinese citizens there, has been to force the communist empire onto the Hong Kong Chinese. And the deal made with Britain when Britain removed itself as being in charge of Hong Kong a few years back was that Hong Kong would be allowed to keep its democracy, but that ain't happening, folks. So you have to have some sympathy for the Hong Kong Chinese who are fighting the communist empire that has taken over China, etc. So moving on, I mean, I suppose the biggest mistake, well, it's not suppose, it was bringing in other cultures. It just doesn't work. So John Alexander MacDonald said so himself, you know, after the Chinese coolies or whatever they were called back then built the railroad or assisted in the building. I don't think they planned the railroad, folks. I think it was white engineers, the last spike. And he wanted them sent back because the cultural clash would be there. And he said, you know, Canada, the Dominion of Canada is for white people of British stock and European white stock. And that's the way it should have stayed. And all the idiots with the pulp press out there, the cosmopolitan multiculturalism, people can do is smash our heroes. That's all they can do is with their garbage trying to smash our heroes. But we're not like the Muslim extremists who don't go out and shoot people down for their extremist views or freedom of the press. Of course, then that's another opening, isn't it? Freedom of press for who? If you criticize too strongly certain tribes that are not white in Canada or in Britain, you're thrown in jail. So there's only freedom of the press for certain peoples. And the judges who were appointed their judgeships know where their butter is, and they make sure that freedom of speech is sectioned off. Well, boys and girls, the party's over. The Paris, France, and then that mad dog that attacked our parliament in Ottawa just a month or two ago. And don't think these characters don't have plans. That guy in Ottawa, he went right down the hallway, armed to the teeth. He knew exactly where it was heading for, the cabinet meeting rooms, the caucus meetings of the members of Parliament, and he was headed right for the doors. Likewise with these guys in Paris, France, they knew exactly when the weekly meeting of the cartoonist editorial board of that paper, they knew exactly when the meeting was to be held, and that's where they stormed. So they're not dummies. The dummies are liberals who have said that we can be the breadbasket for the entire planet, and Western civilization cannot be the breadbasket for the entire planet. Party's over, and no matter how soft the liberals try and go now after the slaughters, oh well, we're still all united, all the new Canadians and all the new Frenchmen and all the new Britons, they call them that. They're not indigenous peoples in Britain. It's our peoples that count. That's what this show is all about. Dinosaur News, brought to you as often as this boy's in the mood. I know I'm getting places because what you would call the extreme right wing in the Dominion of Canada, the extreme right wing, they're starting to send me nasty emails, so they know that we're getting places. Our connections are terrific with the motherland, Candor League. Now the League of the South, we don't know personally. This boy doesn't know. I've never talked with Dr. Hill, etc. But we have a party, a person in a certain state in the States who's in with the League of the South totally, and we receive their videos, etc. So we work together, the three leagues. But as I said, because we're starting to pick up steam with the enemy camps resorting to bloodshed, etc., especially in France recently, but in Ottawa recently. So the so-called right-wing are scrambling for position. So finally the attacks are being heaped on Beattie and the British People's League. And just love it. It's a sign of progress when the little wimps are all upset and starting to natter about you. No more to be said on that subject. So for Sir Jan.11th MacDonald, although I don't like quoting Wikipedia, you can get his entire history there. It's not taught enough in the schools. There's 2 books back there by Douglas Creighton. You cannot quite make them out at the base of Sir John. And perhaps for the next video I'll spiff up the studio a little bit better, but we managed to set it up anyway. But Sir Jan.11th MacDonald, you just have to read all he went through. And he lived till the age, I think it was 76. In 1891 he passed away. Yeah, that's 76 years of age. His last campaign, he campaigned for the old flag and the old party with the Union Jack flying, which transformed, of course, into our Ontario flag. And I feel guilty not having the Ontario flag full blast here, but I've got to figure out how I can pin it up for the next show. The antagonism slowly trickling against me from the so-called right-wing groups happened once before when the British People's League was associated with some unusual goings-on in the late 70s, early 80s. And things have died off for a bit. So Beattie's still here to antagonize, with the end result being our freedom, our people's freedom, British Canadians and our European cousins. And who started the ball rolling? Sir Jan.11th MacDonald, that's who. Born 200 years ago. January 11th, 1815. If all these critics could just emulate one pinch of what Sir John accomplished, they wouldn't be squawking. They're all going to be out of work anyway, the modern journalists. The internet is the future. Well, that's it for today. Happy birthday, Sir Jan.11th MacDonald. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you next time. God save the Queen.